Now let's see how to create a data source view completely from scratch. We can right-click on the Data Source Views folder and select New Data Source View. We'll walk through a wizard, and this asks us which data source we want to use. We can actually combine tables from multiple data sources into a single data source view. In this case, though, we're going to use a new data source. We're going to create a data source to connect to our AdventureWorks data warehouse. In this case, that's located on my local server, and then the database name is AdventureWorks DW 2008 R2. So this particular database already has fact tables and dimension tables designed and pre-populated with data. So this would be in preparation for a bottom-up approach to building out cubes and dimensions. So with the AdventureWorks data warehouse selected, I'll click Next, and then we need to specify impersonation information, so I'll set Inherit, and then we'll just click Finish here. So now we're back to the Data Source View wizard that has added a new data source to our project, and that's the data source that I want to use in this particular data source view. So I'll click Next, and then it shows me all of the tables and views that are available in this particular database. And so we can see here we have a dim date table, and I just double click on that to select it. I can use product and product category and product subcategory. I can do things like pick the fact table, fact reseller sales, and let's go ahead and do the dim sales territory just like we had in our earlier example with the top-down approach. And we'll click Next and Finish. So in this case, the data source view is created based on the existing structures of tables, and we can see primary keys are defined in all of our tables. And in AdventureWorks, the fact table has primary keys designated here, and that's not normally a requirement of fact tables, but in this particular case there's something called a degenerate dimension, and those are the primary keys that are associated with that degenerate dimension, and that's an advanced topic that we'll cover in a separate course. We can see the snowflake architecture for product, subcategory, and category. All of the relationships were detected. And we can see with the date table, there's actually 3 relationships: order date, due date, and ship date key, all relate to the date dimension. And so there are relationships established for those. Now, one of the things that we often do when we're building out data source views on top of existing tables is we may need to rename things. So if we just select a table here in the table view, we can go to the properties and reset the friendly name and remove things like dim and fact. And that makes it easier to rename things later. So we'll just go quickly through each of these tables. And using short names is usually a good idea. It's better for storage and optimization in analysis services to keep things as short as possible without making the names meaningless or cryptic for our users. So here we've renamed things. This renaming only changes the names within the data source view. Nothing has happened to the underlying source tables. So in fact, we only need read permissions to these underlying tables, but we can make design changes that are necessary for analysis services strictly within the data source view. We could also do renaming of individual columns as well. Now, if our source tables did not already have primary keys defined in them, it will be very important that we do that in the data source view. Now, I have them already specified here, so I can't set it, but if I were to right-click on a column, you can see that one of the options in the context menu here is to set the logical primary key. When a primary key already exists, this command is disabled. You can also set composite keys just by selecting multiple columns in your table. Like so, you hold down the Shift key and select multiple columns, and then you would be able to set the logical primary key if you needed a composite key. The purpose of the primary key in our dimension tables here is to uniquely identify each record in that dimension.